right, let's get this party started. Let's see here. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Professional Females. I have got cats fighting behind me. If you hear them, they are playing, I think. Half playing, depending on if they're losing. If they lose, they get mad. But if they're winning, they think it's playing. That's what I've come to think is happening. They're right down below me right now. Leo is winning. Leo's always winning. Anyway, it is morning again, so I've got another cup of my French press coffee. And this time it is in a CERT Ministries mug. It has seen better days. That said Mr. Swan. So our call sign from CERT was the Swans. And my husband is Mr. Swan. Obviously, I'm Mrs. Swan. Yeah, Maddie from CERT Ministries makes the best mugs. I've got like 20 mugs in there that I drink every day from Maddie. So today I just wanted to talk quickly about something I'm seeing on social media, and it's something that my husband and I talk about a lot when it comes to business owners. I'm seeing this, there's one of the cats. It's just gonna happen, so I have to let it happen. I'm seeing this trend on social media that seems to be, I think, a little bit misguided. So I wanted to talk about it because I think it's a huge mistake that people make when they're getting on social media. So I think the biggest mistake that you can make on social media is thinking that the more followers you have, the more successful you are or the better you're doing. That's not true. That is not true. I know everybody believes that the measurement of success is the amount of followers you have on social. It is not. And I feel like everyone is in this rat race to get 1 million views on their reels and tons of likes on their posts and want to make sure that they show their TikTok followers in their Instagram bio because TikTok's allowing them to get more views than Instagram is because Instagram's algorithm sucks. Like all of these different crazy things, right? Probably shouldn't post this on Instagram. But, I think we all find ourselves wrestling with the algorithm. It's not like it used to be where... It's not like it used to be where you could just post on Instagram because you went on a trip and you thought that trip was awesome. So you wanted to post some photos and videos, and then everyone in your feed saw it because your feed was your family and friends, and it was fun. And it was a cool time in Instagram history. It was a cool time in social media history. YouTube was like that too. I loved it. My sister and I had a shared account on Instagram before. We had made a lot of friends on there. We had such a good time posting. And then 2020 happened, and then we got shadow banned like crazy. No matter how well you do on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, if you say something that they deem as violative of their rules and procedures, you get shadow banned, you get the boot, you get a warning, you get a strike. In 2020, that happened to us. We wanted to share what we felt about certain things, and whether you agree with what we said or not, it doesn't matter, because wherever you fall along that spectrum, you're eventually going to get the kibosh as well. So it's something to think about as a larger issue, but that's kind of a non sequitur from what I really wanted to talk about today. What I wanted to talk about today was exactly what we're seeing is people are going online and then they're just running headfirst into trying to get views. So what are you doing? You're following accounts that have a decent amount of followers probably, or creating trending viral reels, TikTok posts, whatever they are, right? We'll just use Instagram as the example because I'm a millennial and that's what we like to use, right? I think millennials are slowly getting onto the TikTok train, or maybe I'm just like one of the last holdouts and I'm a remnant of the past, but or a relic of the past, I think it is. But same concept applies. Everyone's racing for views and likes and follows. But what we're forgetting from the outset is what my husband always says. My husband's a turnaround specialist. If you hang around professional females long enough, you're either going to hear about him, you're going to watch me talk about him, you're going to see him, you're going to listen to him, because I'm definitely going to bring him on as a guest speaker. He's a turnaround specialist. He's been doing that for over 20 years, I believe, at this point. He's turned around hundreds of businesses. He speaks on thousands of stages talking about this thing called business. And he taught me how to grow my business. I purchased his course, and then I got his deep dive. I purchased his deep dive so his team could come in and help me grow my business. Not because my business was tanking by the time I needed a deep dive. In fact, it was growing. I took his course at a time when I was broke. And I put that thing on a credit card and I said, this better work. But so then I grew my business because I learned real business principles. And I'm not talking about like a social media business. I grew a business, a company that has assets, that has employees, that has contractors, that has projects, that has contracts. So this business, I grew into something that was elevating. And I knew I needed to then hire him in a greater capacity in his team, which his team does, for a deep dive, what they call a deep dive. So it was a 3-day intensive deep dive where they helped scale my business and taught me how to run this machine, create the machine and run it. And I still keep his team on my staff to this day. I work with them every single week. Everyone needs coaches. It's a no-brainer. I have a physical trainer, like a fitness trainer, nutrition trainer. I've got my pastor who teaches me spiritually. I got my husband who's sometimes a life coach for me. And I hope I could be the same for him. I hope I am the same for him in some capacity. But, I do believe you need individuals in your lives who are mentors or coaches. Now, here's a whole other issue too. I'm not saying go try to find successful people and get them to mentor you for free. And we'll talk about this another day. Actually, this is a great topic for another day. If you're trying to get people's time for free, you are not valuing their time, and you might need to think about that and correct that before you can even consider having a successful business. So I'll rewatch this recording and I'll remember what I said there, and that will trigger probably the next topic we will discuss, which is what mistakes you're making in your thinking and your thought processes. If you're trying to get mentors for free, if you're calling people all the time, taking away their time to talk about your issues all the time, that might be a signal that there's something you need to grow through in your thinking and your emotional capacity, mental capacity, business capacity before you can actually see good results in your business. So it's an indicator of that. So we'll talk about that another day. So the issue here is that, in my opinion, everyone is being told that when you go on social media, your goal is to create an account that's very large. The challenge is most people on there, not everybody, but most people on there have no idea why they're doing this in the first place. They are maybe just looking to get a ton of followers, and they think that's success because, once I get a ton of followers, maybe that means I'll get sponsorships from corporations and companies, and I need this item, so maybe I love coffee, so maybe I'll be sponsored by a coffee company, and if I get 1 million followers, that coffee company is going to want me. Okay, so you get a couple bucks maybe for being a sponsor, and you get some discounted or free product. Is that paying your bills? Is that a business? If you get enough of those sponsorships, it certainly could add, make a little dent in your wallet for sure. But what's sustainable? And yes, there are people who have massive sponsorship deals. And there are people who influencing, which is a term that gives me the ick, but influencing in and of itself, sure, that is turning into its own business segment. The challenge there is you're always tied to your business. And that's something, again, my husband and I talk about. I built my companies so that I don't have to be in them day to day. My team runs them, right? And my husband, the same thing. If you are the face of your brand, and that's okay if you are, you have to consider the implications of that. If you ever want to take a break, your brand tanks. So how are you building this to be sustainable? The other thing as well is, okay, so outside of this influencer business model, when you are running to social media and then you're trying to build that brand and amass followers, which again, no problem in trying to get followers, but if you're just trying to get followers and you're going to do whatever you need to do to get those followers, trending topics, show a little extra cleavage, whatever it is, right? What customer segment are you bringing to your page? Because if you're not thinking of your outcome, then you're just going to be randomly putting together a social media page that has no real outcome. It's driving you to nothing. It is driving you to nowhere. So again, my husband and I talk about this. We were just talking about it yesterday. We were speaking with a colleague of ours, and We share our business anecdotes with each other, and we share stories. And one of the things that we were talking about was, what is your outcome? And I think that's important to talk about here because, by example, if you are building a business and you know what product or service offering you have to understand what your customer segment is. And once you know what your customer segment is, then you can drive your posts and your marketing towards bringing in those customers. But the thing is, so many people think social media is the shortcut to bringing in business. Social media falls into the marketing bucket. You have a sales bucket. Sales and marketing sometimes intertwine. Social media should be driving you towards sales, yes, but you cannot neglect the actual sales items you have to do. If you have a business that requires you to make cold calls, you need to be making cold calls before you work on a social media post. I know this because I did the same thing and I avoided the sales calls because the sales calls sucked and I hated them. And social media made me feel pretty and warm and creative, right? This is before you had to post your face on everything, but I was building my website and I was like, this is so fun and I love this and I could spend all day doing this. I'm a real business owner. And then I realized, and I was taught, that I am filling my days with things that don't matter if I don't have a functioning business. So let me repeat that. Do not fill your days with things that don't matter if you do not have a functioning business. What do I mean by that? If you are working on a website but you have no sales, your business is not functioning. If you are spending a month, 2 months, 3 months building a website, building your branding, but you have no sales, your business is not functioning. You need sales. You need operations. You need to fulfill those sales when you close them. You need branding and marketing, right? You need all of those things, but far too often. And I found myself in the same place. I found myself developing my marketing, developing my branding, spending all day doing that because I'm creative and I like that stuff. But I hated finances and I hated sales calls. But I needed to be making the sales calls because when I could pitch myself, they weren't looking at my website. These people needed my service. And then once I started landing those contracts, I could fulfill those contracts. And then I was learning how to do both of those and manage both of those arms, right? The sales and the operations. And then with the revenue and the extra time, I could start developing and slowly scaling and building out the rest of my business, like my website and things like that. But in my business, you didn't need the website first, you needed the sales first. And I think in a lot of businesses, that's the same because you can scale into it. Now, there are businesses that require a website to exist or require social media marketing. I'm not saying that's not the case. What I am saying is if 90% of your day is on Instagram or TikTok building videos, it's going to take you a lot longer to close a sale than it is by calling someone, by example, or whatever other method of sales there is. You have to lay out all the types of sales there are, and you have to be prepared to see the uncomfortable sales you may not be willing to do, whether it's cold calling people that you know are kind of in that industry that could use their services, subcontracting under larger companies so you can gain some experience, get some references. There's a lot of different things that you can do. But I've seen a lot of people say, yeah, I'm on social media, I'm on Facebook Marketplace and no one's buying my stuff. I'm on Etsy, no one's buying my stuff. Okay, we could talk about how Facebook's a dying platform anyway, but what I'm saying is, where are you not doing the tough thing to grow your business? So, all of that to say, social media has a time and a place. It is absolutely necessary. But when you're building your social media just to gain a ton of followers, but you have no outcome in mind, you have no business in mind, it's going to be a failing product anyway, or a failing topic anyway. So there's kind of two types that I see. You've got the people who just try to gain 1 million followers, but they have no outcome. So then you have 1 million followers, now what? The best you're going to be able to do is corporate sponsorships, or you're smart enough to maybe pivot into something that you can actually sell. And then you're probably going to lose followers because you're going to start posting about that topic that you're truly passionate about, that you want to make sales in. And then out of the 1 million followers, there's going to be a segment that say, I was just in it for their entertaining posts. I'm out. I don't want to hear all this stuff about real estate or whatever, or your photography business. I was in it for the funny posts. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. What I'm telling you is when you've got a defined product or service, you're going to lose followers, and that's okay. If you amassed a ton of followers that weren't in your customer segment, you don't need them to stay anyway. Your social media is not for friends, unless you want it to be for friends. If you're doing this for your business, your social media is to drive towards more business. So let me say that again. Unless you are on social media for fun, if you are on social media for your business, your outcome is to drive business, not to make a ton of followers. If you make a ton of followers, amazing, but you don't need a ton of followers to drive business. You need the right type of followers to drive business. I would rather have 8,000 followers on social media that are in my customer segment than 1,000,000 who are not. So let that sink in. I'm not saying 1,000,000 followers is a bad thing. What I'm saying is it's a long tail way to get towards your outcome. The amount of time and effort and energy, but especially time, it will take to get 1,000,000 followers that aren't all in your customer segment. Yes, it could spur conversations. It could drive towards more business for sure. But the amount of time it will take to get there is inefficient. You can have a smaller amount of time focused on getting the customer segment that you need. And even if it's 1,000 followers, but those 1,000 followers are loyal to the subject, they are looking for your product and services, that's success. That will make you money. It doesn't matter what people show on social media. 500,000 followers that aren't real customers is 500,000 followers. That's it. That's not feeding their bank account. Now they might do things to try to get sponsorships, like I said, or try to then pivot into what they're selling or sell t-shirts and clothing. Sure, you're going to start to grow some things, and there is certainly a niche, a business segment there. But for most people, if you want a business that you can grow and then you can retire from, or you can sell for a lot of money, you need to build a business and then see social media as a marketing asset, a very powerful marketing tool that you can use. And then all of your posts become geared towards that, whether it's entertaining posts, funny posts, education posts, whatever. You can then start to gear towards that. There's someone, I don't know the person, but I noticed that they grew their account by showing off, kind of modeling, skimpy clothes, all of those things. So what ended up happening? Most of that person's followers were men because they wanted to look at her body. And this person seemed nice, she seemed intelligent, and that was totally lost because the followers, her goal was to get a ton of followers. So now she's got a ton of followers, and then when she tries to sell bathing suits or women's clothes, it's a bunch of men following her. She built the wrong customer segment base. Now she can pivot and start to produce or promote products and services geared towards men since she's got their attention. Or if she really has a passion for the bathing suits and the women's clothes, women's fitness apparel, then she needs to shift and bring in more female followers. But that's a great example, and it's a small example of what happens when your first goal is to just build a following. That should not be your first goal. Your first step should be, what is my business? Then how do I build my branding and marketing to drive towards that customer segment to get them to see me and then buy my product or service? So I'm going to close out by saying that one more time. Instead of starting on social media and saying, how do I get a bunch of followers? Instead, follow these 3 steps. Define what your business is, define what your customer segment is, and then use branding and marketing tools to amass those followers, to bring those followers in that are your customer segment, and they will be more likely to buy your product or service. It doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers, 50 million followers. It just matters that you are growing your customer segment as your community. So I hope this helped. It was just something that kind of came to mind as my team and I have been looking at social media and kind of seeing an epidemic of accounts out there that are trying to teach people how to just go viral. It's much bigger than going viral. This is more important. It's not about you. Remember that. This social media is not about me. Social media is not about you. In an age where it seems like everyone is just trying to make everything about themselves, please hear me when I say, and it's so relieving to realize this, it is not about you. Nobody cares about you. People care about their outcome. They care about how you can solve their problem. Then you can start to see social media for what it is. It's not about self-worth. It's not about who you are. Your website isn't about who you are. Whether you land a sale or not isn't about who you are. It's about determining, that customer determining whether, based on what they've seen, what they've heard from you in a sales call, in a sales pitch, it's determining whether that meets their need. And then you can begin to refine those things to better show them and communicate to them how you will meet their need. And then it's not personal and it's not emotional. And it's much, much better living. And you don't have to care if someone doesn't like this post as much as the last post, because it's not about you anyway. It's about the value you're bringing them. So I hope this helps. And this is just another episode of Professional Females, where we're just going to chat about things we're seeing in business and try to provide tips for women out there who are looking to launch into entrepreneurship. My goal here is to provide real substantive value, not just kind of a flaky surface level thing. I needed substance when I was growing my businesses. And so I want to provide this for you so you can minimize the learning curve for yourself and grow a successful company or successful companies. Make it plural. Do it all. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening.